Welcome to today's webcast, wherever you're located today. On behalf of Pentaho Corporation, we will do our webcast entitled Unlock Data and Deliver Information with Ease. My name is Matthew Perpertian. I'm the Director of Marketing for Pentaho, and I'll take just a few minutes to go over our webcast details, introduce Pentaho, and our speaker for today. The webcast replay for the event will be made available to all via email in approximately 48 hours, and feel free to share that with your colleagues. Also, if you have any issues with the audio or visual presentation, please type these issues into the chat pane, and I'll do my best to assist you. The webcast will be followed by a Q&A session, and if your question is not answered in the live session, we will answer that in a follow-up email. So to introduce Pentaho, for those of you who are new to Pentaho, Pentaho Corporation is a commercial open-source alternative for business intelligence. Pentaho BI Suite Enterprise Edition provides comprehensive reporting, interactive analysis, dashboards, data integration ETL, data mining, and a BI platform that have made it the world's leading and most widely deployed commercial open source BI suite. It provides unlimited technical support, additional services, and product enhancements via annual subscription that can lower your total cost of ownership by as much as 90% compared to traditional proprietary BI offerings. And since our founding in 2004 as the pioneer in commercial open source BI, Pentaho's products have been downloaded millions of times. We have a very large and diverse customer base of organizations of all sizes and in multiple countries, different industries, each tackling their business intelligence challenges with Pentaho technology and our professional support and services. Now I want to take a minute to introduce our speaker for today, Mike Tarallo, the Director of Pre-Sales for Pentaho Corporation. He has over 12 years of BI and data integration experience, most recently at Information Builders. My past experience consists of technical positions including Senior Sales Engineer, Gold Level Support Account Manager, and Custom Support Services Supervisor. And now, with no further ado, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mike.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to kind of keep this kind of inviting and fun, and wanted to show you a little capability within the Pentaho BI suite that I would think you would find intriguing. I'm going to share my desktop momentarily, and we're going to stop the presentation with some brief slides and then go into the actual meat and details of what we're going to cover here. Let me just share my desktop. Basically, we're going to discuss some differentiators as a technology. I think it's important to set the stage or the groundwork, understanding Pentaho BI Suite, the capabilities within what we offer in the sense of two core competencies, Pentaho data integration and Pentaho content delivery. The data integration being your ETL processing and the content delivery being your reporting analysis and dashboards. I'm going to give you brief snippets of that, of combining the two together by unlocking data from not just a relational source, but from other sources, including sources that are accessible by Pentaho data integration. In a nutshell, in a matter of minutes, you're going to see me create a Pentaho data integration transformation using our ETL tool, sourcing data from a web service, we'll say, like as a WSDL file, a web services description language, a public web service that is available right now on the internet, also from, let's say, a Google Analytics account, and I'll give you a brief example of that. Then we're going to export that transformation to a file format that is usable by another design tool called the Pentaho Report Designer. And that is a design tool that is used for creating pixel-perfect reports and templates, which can source data from many sources, including Pentaho data integration. Then share some slides with you in regard to resources available, and then we can open up any Q&A type session. So first, I want to just cover how are we different. Okay, within the commercial open source model, obviously cost is going to be the biggest differentiator, but we want to discuss more than just cost. How are we different, let's say, versus a traditional or proprietary BI? It's not so much a feature versus function. Some of it is, which you'll see today, but strongly we are differentiated by our architecture, built on open standards, lightweight deployments, flexible, extensible, easily editable into many applications, platform agnostic, running on all platforms that support Java, and the ability to integrate many third-party components, such as Flex or Flex technologies, Google visualizations, and web services. Also, the ability that we do provide a BI developer framework. Not only we have out-of-the-box capability, but we have capability for you to customize. We have robust APIs in the form of, a low-level Java API to interact with our engines, or at an application or web-based API, HTML, AJAX, JSP, or simply calling any content from a URL is capable as well. A real strong differentiator also is the ability to achieve community uplift, where we do accept community contributions and therefore evolve the product a lot faster than a proprietary business model. Other differentiators, a transparent, detailed roadmap. You do not have to be a customer to see where we're headed. The product roadmap and contributions are managed and certified by Pentaho, meaning that if there is somebody who wants to contribute to us, we do consider and certify review before we include it into the core product. Please note that the developers are Pentaho employees. They're not a bunch of people in different locations that seem to code in between, episodes of Star Trek or in the attic or in the basement. This is very similar to a proprietary model in development of the software. We use an agile Scrum methodology, which helps us build sprints of building out the software very quickly. And there's extensive rapid QA, both internal and external. So it's not so much black box tested. It's tested all over from anyone who downloads and uses the software and believes in the open source model as well and is willing to see the power of Pentaho. So differentiators from our ETL side, the data integration. Content delivery usually begins with data integration. Before you can get that report, that analytical view, that dashboard, that widget displayed with a green, red, or yellow dot, you definitely need to have that data in some format, whether it's possibly accessing it directly from some service or putting it into a data warehouse. So Pentaho does have an ETL tool that can do that. However, one of the differentiators that we'll talk about and demonstrate is that we can source data directly from our data integration tool. So these are some of the noted differentiators within the ETL side. Large user and development community. The ETL tool itself is not a code generator. It does not generate a 4GL language. It does not generate Perl. It does not generate Java code. It's an innovative metadata approach, basically, that is transportable and interworks with our platform. And it basically achieves less maintenance. It's easier to debug. It's easier to deploy, and it's highly scalable. Which brings me to my next point. Due to our customer references and success stories and notes that you can see, another differentiator is highly scalable in nature due to clustering and partitioning, parallelism and multi-threaded capability, and easy to deploy on a cloud or grid environment. So we have analyst white papers that discuss deploying Pentaho ETL inside an Amazon EC2 and achieving very high scalable rates. You can view that as well by working with our team. Translated into a number of different languages. Plugin architecture, meaning that you can either download additional plugins, job entries, transformation input steps, transform steps from our website, or you could build your own using standard Java because the APIs are available. Noted differentiator. All jobs and transformations can accept inputs to be completely dynamic. And then all jobs and transformations can also be deployed and work as a part in the BI platform. And then finally, everything in the ETL side is also API enabled, so you can embed them into your own applications. The whole suite, how we're different versus, let's say, other commercial open source. We are a complete BI stack. We offer that content delivery and data integration from the same vendor. We're not a conglomerate of a bunch of different packages that we acquired over the years and then trying to outsource some of them or replace some of them. Everything's built from the ground up and under the Pentaho stack and label, and all work with each other. We're the only commercial open source vendor that leads and sponsors all of its projects. There are other vendors out there that either embed some of our open source technology and then put it as their own, or they're outsourced from other vendors. Proven scalable deployments, well-known customer success stories on commodity-level hardware. We do provide a real metadata management level, such as a semantic layer for your reporting and analysis needs. We provide an easy out-of-the-box web-based UI for reporting, query, and analysis, and dashboards and scheduling. And as mentioned earlier, not just ETL, but integrated ETL from Pentaho. We do provide an administration console to manage the environment, and then we also do provide data mining capabilities in the likes of a SPSS or a SAS institute that would offer for predictive modeling, machine learning algorithms, classifications, market basket analysis, etc. And so please note that our data mining capabilities are also integrated with our platform. So to start the demonstration for the TechCast, what I'm going to do is access a web service that is completely available over the internet. This is from night.com. It is a movies function web service. What I'm going to do is just basically cut that URL, open up a new browser, and paste it in, and you can see that we get a response. This response comes back basically in the form of XML, and you can see the methods within the SOAP response get theaters and movies, and it requires an input of a zip code and a radius. What we're going to use is Tahoe data integration and our web services lookup step to access this. Now, I could have, used a very simple, Excel file. I could use the very simple, table input with a select, but I thought it'd be more intriguing to show you accessing that web service, and then parsing that data. So, like a cooking show, I have it already developed here. You can see 4 steps. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create it for you on the fly. I'm in the ETL tool known as Pentaho Data Integration, and I'm creating a new transformation. My library of input steps. And the first thing I want to do is generate rows. This is a input step that's used to generate data for testing, profiling, prototyping, etc. In generate rows, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 fields. I'm going to call this one zip code, and we're going to call this one radius. Okay, those are my input fields. And then I'm going to specify my types, string and integer. And then I'm going to provide my values, 32771, which is Sanford, Lake Mary Heathrow area in the Florida state, and radius will be 10 miles. And the number of rows we want this to return is 1. So what I'm doing here is simulating user input for this demonstration. Now, this user input could be from a variable, it could be from an application, it could be from a file, it could be real-time extracted, but here, again, for demonstration, we're just going to simulate some user input. Okay, we click on that, and that's our input step. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to bring out the lookup, web services lookup, and I bring that to my palette, and I drag these together as such. If I right-click on the simulate user input, you can see show output fields, and you can see the output field, zip code, and radius are coming out of this. And if I go into web services lookup and do show input fields, you can see those are going into the web services step. Step is then to configure the web services entry. Very simply, I'm going to paste that WSDL file into the URL and click load. And what this will do is now provide me the methods available in the WSDL. Here we get theaters and movies, as I showed you. Okay, before I configure this step, I'm going to show you how I know to type in what I'm going to type in here in a moment. But you can see it says repeating element name. Okay, and how I know that is I have a third-party tool, SOAP UI. Now, this doesn't mean you have to have this tool to work with the web services step. This is meaning that if you're working with web services, you need to understand your web service, what the response is, what comes back, how to parse it, let's say, etc. Okay, so this third-party tool called SOAP UI is a web services testing tool. So you already have it loaded here. I have simulated input 32771 and 10. I'm going to invoke the web service, and what we're going to do is we're going to get a response back in the form of XML. And that response is basically going to show me the theaters, movies, and within. So this is one of the things that you have to also realize is that this is live, and this is a live web service, so I might not be getting the response I want. So let me cancel this. Let me open this again just to see if we can get this back here. Okay, and we'll be able to do what we're looking for. Going back here, and just to refresh this, I'm testing this web service. This is the web service that comes back. And this tool is supposed to return me a response, but at this time it's not doing that. So the response comes back is basically an XML document format. And in that response, you are able to parse that XML. So keep in mind, the response that's coming back is an XML document format. I'm going to show you that through the data integration piece. The response that comes back has a repeating element named theater. Okay, that's an XML node that is in that response. So here's where that repeating element name for theater. Other authentication means and proxy means if necessary for that web service. And then I click add input. And you can see that it recognizes the zip code radius inputs. And what I do here is now specify my field names coming in from the input step. So that knows how it knows which values to pass for this. So we have zip code, and we have radius. So those are my input fields coming in from the generate rows. Then I click add output, okay, and this is the response that's going to then come out of the web service, and what we're going to do here is click get fields, and what it does is go out, and you can see it's going to return the name of the theater, the address of the theater, and then movies, which is an array of movies, meaning that there is repeating elements of movies in a loop path. So for every theater, there's a number of different movies that are in that theater, and this is going to come back as an array of movies. So I'm OK here, and then I can preview the results by selecting the web service and clicking Quick Launch. And you see now the preview comes back. Here's the zip code, here's the radius, here's the name, and just keep in mind, again, demonstration purposes, you can see 32771, United Artists Seminole Town Center. What I did is I did a quick Google search to show you that this is not faked or staged. It is real. I just typed in that to show you this Seminole Town Center in Sanford, Florida. It's one of those movie theaters out there. And you can see the response that comes back as the field column names. Notice that movies is a field, and it basically is multiple nodes of movies and movie. So what I want to do now is parse out this XML into columns. So we'll click Close here. What we do is we use an input step called Get Data from XML. And what I'm going to do is drag this to the palette, put that to my Get Data from XML. Click, I can audit this and say Show Input Fields. I have zip code, radius, name, address, and movies coming in. I can go in and configure the Get Data from XML step. Now we're able to parse an XML document from a file, but we can also parse it from a field. So if any of your data inputs have XML as entries or values, I can select XML sources defined in field. From list, there's my movies, and the Content tab, and this is where you define your node structure. So I know that there's a /movies, meaning that that's my top level node, and then there's movie within that. And that's all I need to do to define my loop path. So movie/movie, and from here is where we then define our outputting fields. Okay, so I know I have movie name. I know I have movie rating. And that should have a R. What I'm doing here is naming my columns that I'm going to use. So I have running time. And show times. Okay, now this has to match that particular XPath or the XML nodes that you would have saw in the SOAP UI, but for some reason this is not invoking it as I expected. Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay. We did a little hiccup in SOAP UI. Jumping back to that third-party tool that I'm using to test the web service, here's that repeating element named theater I was talking about from the getters or movies response, and here's that movies movie. And then here's rating, name, running time, and show time. So this is how I know the name of the nodes that I'm using here. So we have name, rating, and then we have running time and times. Okay, after selecting this, now we have our columns defined and that are parsed out of this particular area. So I can do show output fields. Now we have zip code, radius, name, address, movies, movie name, movie rating, running time, and show times. So that array of movies in there, I don't really need that XML field. So I'm going to use a transform step called select values, drag that palette, connect it, and then this is where mapping occurs for targets and sources, but this is also where metadata changes, data types, selecting and removing and altering occur. So I'm just going to go to remove and remove movies. At this point, technically speaking, I'm done. So in a note, I'm done, and this is how you can document your transformation along the way. And then at this point, I'm also going to name this report columns. And I'm going to show you why. Because this is where I can now preview this result. So I'm going out live to the web service, and now I have my zip code and my radius, which are my inputs, and then name, address, movie name, movie rating, running time, and the show times. Okay, and I very easily could parse this out with a split on the bar if I wanted to, and then create a new field if I want. But at this point, you get the picture. Now we have this report column format. Now keep in mind, what I'm about to show you next could be done with any Pentaho data integration transformation. I'm going to now export this and then use this to source as data for a report, and then publish that report. Keep in mind, the output doesn't have to stop at report columns. It can be, output to a table. It could be output to a text file. It could be output to XML. So this is where that data warehousing comes in, and additional cleansing and enrichment can occur. But right now, we've extracted the data from the web service, its input, and we parsed it and put it into report columns. So at this time, what I'm going to do is File and export this to the XML file. On my desktop, I have a PDI folder, and I'm going to call this TechCast Movie Listing. So what I'm doing here is showing a way of transporting the transformation. This is going to export the PDI folder as TechCast Movie Listing, which is known as a KTR file, a transformation. Kettle is the project of Pentaho Data Integration that we acquired, so the extension is KTR. That same file could then be imported, as a file from here, from the repository or file system as well. Or, as I mentioned, working with our complete BI suite, now in the Pentaho Report Designer, I can select File and New and create a report. From here, I right-click, add a variety of data sources, not just a relational data source like JDBC, but our metadata repository, our OLAP engine, XML. We can actually write an inline table or do an advanced JavaScript, Java meta invocation, or even Java objects for reporting. In this case, you notice Pentaho Data Integration is an object. Here's my data source. Here's my query. I browse to my workstation. There's my TechCast Movie Listings. And you'll notice when I select this, it represents the report columns preview. Report columns step. When I click Preview, it goes out and gets me those columns. I know you guys are saying this is pretty cool and shaking your head because I demonstrate this a lot and I get really good reactions, but since you guys are on mute, you can't express yourself right now, and that's quite all right. So what we're going to do here is now click OK, and that's going to bring in these column objects into the Report Designer. I'm not going to go into a full-blown demonstration of Pentaho Report Designer, but what I am going to do is just briefly grab movie name, the theater name, and movie rating, and I'm going to take this and just position these within the Report Designer. I'm pretty sure there'll be more TechCasts on the coolness of the Report Designer. So now I hit Preview. There's my report. If I output this HTML, there's my report. Okay, so I created a report based on that. Now what I'm going to do here is I have a template pre-baked already. So we're going to click File, Open Recent, and I have something called the No Data New TechCast Movies template. You can see this is basically a template that I designed with a chart and everything, and we have data sets attached to it. So I'm going to right-click, go back in, add that data source. Now I associated my data elements to a query named default. I'm going to browse that, go to TechCast Movie Listings, select Report Column, click OK, and this associate basically the values that I already have in here. Okay, now if I do a preview on this, this report will then be created as such, from the layout. And we can go to the next page, and you can see there's a chart element showing me the number of movie counts. And we have some information built into here. So the next I can do is then publish this to the Pentaho BI server. And I have the Pentaho BI server running here. The BI server is a default Java application that runs on the J2EE app server, just like most technologies today do. Very similar to the way the information builders I used to work for used to do it. And I'm going to basically publish this to the repository under Steel Wheels Reports. I'll call this Cool TechCast, if I can spell. Okay, and we're going to publish this here and click OK. So what this is going to do now is write this report to the Pentaho Solution repository. Let me if I want to launch it now. I could click yes, and what that'll do is bring me dynamically to the console login where it will execute this report in real time. Okay, and you can see that we have our default pagination, we have our default collapsible parameter panel, introduced on-demand paging or parameterization panel, HTML pagination within this release as well. Okay, so and then just to show you how to access from the user console, I actually have the login here. Put in my wrong password. Okay, the Pentaho user console is our default user interface. This is the quickest way to deploy Pentaho in any infrastructure. technically speaking, you can Pentaho installed and have a report created in under an hour. And we have tutorials and resources to help you with that. But just to give you a little full-on example here, Steele's reporting in my solution repository. I believe I have to refresh my solution repository after you publish, and then in here it'll be listed. Oh, there it is right there, Cool TechCast. So when I execute that, you can then, the report is now accessible in the Pentaho user console, but as I mentioned, anything that we show can also be referenced in the form of APIs or servlet calls, etc. And here outside the solution repository. Coming to a close at the end of the TechCast, I want to show you with a little bit more knowledge in Pentaho and a little bit more understanding of what is possible. I have a movie listing public web service that accepts an input. Okay, what that means to you is that I said anything could be dynamic. Here's 32771. Well, I'm going to put in some arbitrary zip code here, such as, let's say, 90210. Click OK. And what this is going to do is go out to the Beverly Hills, California area, and it's going to retrieve all the movie listings that are out there. And you'll notice that this will take a little bit longer. Now we're back here. You can see Wilshire, Beverly Hills, California. Total number of movies, 3. And then California. And then you can just see how many theaters are out in California. It's tremendous. Okay? So I am completed with this part of the demonstration example. You can't see this was live. You can see I did it in a matter of minutes. And it is as easy as I've just shown you. And then just to step on something else, Pentaho in its Enterprise Edition has also introduced Google Analytics and Google Docs input steps. So to give you a quick example of that, if you have Google Analytics account, you're able to source data directly from there and then integrate it into your systems. mtorrell@pentaho.com. This is my account. This is the query, basically telling me to get the number of visits and then dimensions, dynamically get our fields, and I've sourced data directly from a Google Analytics account. And the same concept of exporting this and creating a report and so forth are possible directly within the Pentaho BI framework. I think it's just a simple dump from the Google Analytics. So Chrome 2009. So basically I showed country, unique count, and browser count. Same concept, guys. At this point, I think I've completed the demonstration portion. To go back to the PowerPoint. Some resources. Now, obviously, before we get started, this is a slide I actually used in my other presentations. So resources for you, the pre-sales consulting portal, the Pentaho base, and my blog. Okay, if you really want to see what I can do with Pentaho and how I use Pentaho, how our customers are using Pentaho, and the capabilities within, I would suggest looking at these 3 resources to get a better understanding of how we work. We are the real deal. We're here to disrupt proprietary BI as you know it, or proprietary ETL as you know it, and we have proven success stories and customer references to support that claim. At this point, we can take some questions. And what I'm going to do is stop screen sharing and look at my list of questions if there are any.